Hello, my nieces and nephews. Uncle Jason put a little mini documentary together to exploit the trans athletes in women's athletics issue. Let's have a little look now.
Hit me up on the LinkedIn.
I got you. I'll text you because there's a secret I want. Last year I met Meb.
Yep.
Is there a possibility?
Now, just note how quickly he broke away from the group. Okay, sorry, how quick she broke away from the group. Okay? Very important.
You know what I'm gonna ask?
Yeah. There's always a possibility.
I like the possibilities.
All right.
We're not gonna talk about it.
I love that there's support. They know what Uncle Jason's thinking is right, and they know it, and they both each other know it, but they're so afraid to say it, and they don't want to say it. This is like people afraid to say common sense now. What is going on in the world?
Sex-based segregation is how competitive sport has recognised the performance advantages that male athletes have over females in many disciplines. It's going to be a fourth gold medal!
Now note, this is why we have men's sports and women's sports. Like Uncle Jason says, there are some sports like pool, snooker, where you can motor racing, where women and men can compete at equal levels. Absolutely not an issue. But anything to do like with combat sports, physical sports, absolutely, it's like chalk and cheese. There's no chance.
But what if the pursuit of fairness and safety comes at the cost of inclusion?
I think it's just so sad, the whole toxic debate.
Any trans female who is included in sport excludes another biological female.
Sports now find themselves in the middle of a heated debate over...
So, like them women just said, when a trans athlete comes into the women's sport, they're taking a space for the women's athlete. Now, did you notice them women didn't want to show themselves? Now, I bet you this is because, right, they don't want to show themselves because they don't want to get the barrage of abuse online like J.K. Rowling's got. They don't want that, you see. So this is why they're trying to stay in the shadows. Though obviously they're being really affected by this. And we're going to see more of this, I think, as this goes on, my nieces and nephews. Please, in the comments, let me know what you think. Are you pro-trans athletes in women's sport? Or are you on the Uncle Jason page book, where we should have men's athletes, women athletes, and transatlantic athletes? It would solve this whole problem. Instead of having to have men in women's toilets, or trans women in women's toilet, or trans women and trans men, all the rest of it, right? All you've got to do is have men's spaces, women's spaces, and trans spaces. Just create an extra bathroom in the restaurants, you know? Extra bathroom, extra category for sports, you know, in the Paralympics and the Olympics and the football, American football, etc., etc. And that will solve this whole problem. Because then the people that want to transition genuinely can transition and still compete, but you don't affect women. Uncle Jason always says, we have to help all groups, but you don't punish one group to help another group, okay? We have to understand that, simple as it may be. Or if we don't want to do that, and we really want to confuse the whole thing, if we don't know for Arthur and Martha, just basically do it where, if you have a penis, you go in the men's, and if you have a foo-foo, you're in the women's bathroom. If you really have to be like that. But the problem's still going to come in sports like this, is when you have testosterone levels, skeleton structure, muscular structure, the fibres of your DNA giving you a competitive advantage. It's still going to happen. And I think we're going to see more of this as time goes on. And when history looks back on this, they're going to think we're complete lunatics.
The debate was about to intensify here in Britain. In March, a 21-year-old trans woman cyclist, Emily Bridges, previously one of the country's most promising male junior riders, was due to compete in her first women's event at the National Championships, having...
Now, notice this. Prominent junior male, not the best junior male, a prominent. So basically, he would have gone in, maybe top 32, top 50, and would be mediocre. Nah, let's just be transatlantic. Switch over to a trans woman, go in the women's, and thrash all the records. That's not been happening, has it, at all recently? When if you niece and nephews has it? No. I think Uncle Jason being very sarcastic there.
Also reduced her testosterone, but with some of her rivals threatening to boycott the race and Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying transgender women should not be allowed to compete in female sporting categories, just days with very few
Absolutely spot on. You know? Boris Johnson, don't get me wrong, he's a bit of a clown, right? And he does act the clown, act the fool, but he's a lot more up here than people give him credit for. I will say that, he's more witty up here than you realise. He's one of these people, Uncle Jason's a few people like this, they act the clown, but really, they're so switched on, you underestimate them, you're going to be 10 steps behind them before you even know what's going on, like. You know, I'll give him his dues there on this one. He has called it right. You know, it's obvious. It's not something that's a whole thing. I don't know about in America, but in the UK, we've got politicians going on national TV being asked a really basic question: what is a woman? And they're going, and they're saying, well, a woman is someone who feels like a woman, right? But they're so scared to answer a basic question that a toddler could answer. Do you know what I mean? It really, really beggars belief how we cannot answer basic questions. I don't know if this is happening all around the world, just in the UK. Also, is your health organisations and your industries in your countries now changing all your language to suit a narrative? So, for example, birthing mothers have been replaced with birthing people. Menstruating women are now being replaced with menstruating persons. Please let me know if this is happening in your country as well. I'll be very interested in where this is happening, where it's not. I do have a sneaky feeling of which countries are doing this and which countries are not. But Uncle Jason always like to see. And I like to know where all my nieces and nephews are from all around the world as well.
Athletes prepared to comment. We've spoken to two British current elite female runners, one of whom's an Olympian, who both told us that women's sport must be protected. The athletes requested to be kept anonymous for fear of a social media backlash and a risk of losing sponsorship.
Every single...
Uncle Jason must have been psychic, because I haven't actually seen this before watching it. I clipped it together and stuff, but I ain't actually watched it in full, like. Uncle Jason called this literally about a few minutes ago in a video, like. Uncle Jason must be very psychic. It's either that or Septic Peg is communicating her thoughts from the beyond with me, I tell ya. Oh, for you guys in the UK who don't know who Septic Peg is, that's a nickname for someone called Mystic Meg, who used to like sit with a crystal ball, telling us about the lottery numbers and who she thinks is going to be lucky tonight in the lottery draws in the 90s, who passed away this year.
Female athlete I've spoken to is scared to speak out. The whole point of competition is to make it a fair and level playing field, and the only way to do that is to have a female category and then a male open category where the trans women can compete.
You can see all the world records are so much further, faster, whatever you want to use, than female world records. And that should be the evidence in itself, because trans women are biologically male, so they are at an advantage. There is so much more that differentiates men and women, and so much more benefits that males have than just testosterone.
Uncle Jason is going to say one thing. Absolutely spot on. She is absolutely spot on what she's saying. There is no reason, technically, if they have a change and become a woman as a trans woman, they cannot compete in the men's sport still. There is no reason why. But the thing is though, if men start saying, oh, women are not as strong as men, they get called out as being sexist. You know, it is just a fact of life. Some people have got skills, other people have not. That is just called life. You know, in all the animal kingdom across the world, male and female of any species is built differently. You know, some species of insects, for example, the woman, the female, is bigger than the male. And the male's job is to mate. Like, I think the praying mantis is one of them. And then after he's mated with the female praying mantis, she bites his head off. So there's all different sorts of roles that gender-based roles play in all kinds of animal species throughout the planet. And there is literally no debate about, you know, or is this ladybird a female, transgender lady? None of that. Do you know what I mean? I know they're not sentient, so it's a very different conversation. But it just shows how simple the animal kingdom makes things. And I think to some degree, we need to go back to a level of simplicity.
Once testosterone has done its work during puberty, and we see increased muscle mass, bone density changes, the shape of the skeleton changes, the heart and the lung, the hemoglobin, all of those things are significant contributors to performance. Now, until it can be shown that that advantage doesn't persist or exist in trans women, then I would say that there's no basis to allow trans women in.
But last
Earlier, all Uncle Jason's been saying in my videos so far, he has literally just confirmed biological facts. Now, I know there's this thing called opinion and feelings and la-di-la-la, but end of the day, 2 + 2 is 4, and science is science, okay? Just because you think, for example, carbon and 2 oxygen molecules mixed together does not make carbon dioxide, doesn't matter if you feel it doesn't make that, it does make that. With things with science and mathematics, unlike the English language, science and mathematics is literally, there's right and wrong. There's no ambiguity, no areas. When you have English literature and language, that's when you start having murky grey areas of like in between boundary lines. But like Uncle Jason said, numbers and science and biology more particularly do not lie. Now, if we, for example, and also in physics, if we're going to build a spaceship to go to Mars, Elon Musk is going to build his spaceship, and the equations say, yes, this is possible doing it this way, but somebody says, well, no, my feeling says that's wrong, my feeling says that's wrong, let's do it this way. Are you going to change the spaceship designs and all the complicate astrophysics equations and calculations and risk destroying the spaceship? Or are you going to go with what's actually right for safety reasons, and obviously it would work when someone's feelings and think this is not right, and they change it all and it won't work? So sometimes facts come above feelings. I hate to say it. Because end of the day, like Uncle Jason always says, our opinions are like arseholes. We all have them and sometimes they stink. If we have to start making rules and laws and bending the rules of physics and the rules of mathematics and everything else to people's feelings, then you're going to have 200 million versions of X, Y, and Z galore. You know, we already have like five different versions of English around the world, and our Microsoft keyboards have United States English and UK English. That's why you probably notice when Uncle Jason says X, Y, and Z, it's because, sorry, we invented it. So that's the end of it.
A transgender sports scientist who has advised the IOC told me the threat to women's sport has been overstated.
So the question isn't, do trans women have advantages, but can trans women and cisgender women compete against one another in meaningful competition?
Right, stop. When this segment started, I thought this was going to go on a positive track, but clearly not, right? Why do we have to change the whole English language? Because people don't like the term woman being a woman and a man being a man. Like, look, just if you want to call yourself a penguin or a two-spirit penguin or whatever you want to call yourself, like a big red cat, whatever you want to call yourself, right? When you're an adult, well, do what you like. But you can't. What you cannot do, so because you have an opinion, you cannot expect the whole world to revolve around your opinion. This is why we have narcissists now, because we're teaching children and people that they can have their world revolve around their one opinion. This is why the likes of Mega Malarkey, for an example, and the Ginger Whinger exist. This is why we're having so much nonsense coming out for. We just need to start with basics and say, look, you can be what you want to be. If you don't know if you're Arthur or Martha, and you're a consenting adult and you make your own decisions about your body, you do what you want to do, like tattoos, piercings, sex changes, whatever. If you're a consenting adult, you crack on with it, right? But the rest of society, the 99.9%, should not have to be on eggshells around you. Of course, I think you have the right to have your needs met, and if you need to have surgery to have changes, of course, as a consenting adult, if you need to do that and get the right kind of therapy first, then treatment, of course I back you for doing that. But what I don't back you in doing is in trying to enforce and indoctrinate the 99% to think like you think because you become a narcissist. That's the key point here.
Truthfully, the answer isn't definitive yet, and certainly in all sports, we don't know. The science is in its infancy, and
I can't, like... Science in its infancy, and we don't know. Is this like Meghan Malarkey when she did, I didn't know about the royal family. Is this one of these kind of instances now then? Like, you don't know. Let's see. There's the New Zealand weightlifter, there's all the swimming records being broken, there's the whole track and field events across America. It's been all over YouTube and all over the internet, being broken all the time. Uncle Jason's heard recently as a male athlete who basically said they were female, went into the female category and literally has just smashed all the records just to make a point and show the point to it of, you know, I can be a man, go into the women's category and just to smash all the women's records completely, right? This is not happening once or twice. This is happening all the time. There's a massive trend, and the trend is so big that the people who want to try and suppress it can no longer suppress it, okay? And you are going to sit there and come out with this nonsense. Oh, give me strength, man. I tell you, this is absolute ludicrousy. Like, I do not know what to do sometimes with people. I really don't.
we are not going to have definitive answers for probably 20 years.
We have definitive answers now. There is a massive track record. It is not complicated, woman. Gee whiz, man. I hate saying it like that, but really, like, 20 years. So let's have 20 years destroying women's sports, and then then they'll realise, oh yeah, we've destroyed women's sports, and then women won't be able to get into sports anymore, and then we'll set all the development and progression in women's sports that has brought the gap between women and men closer and closer. All that progression and funding into women's sports will have to go back 100 years, and they're going to have to fight for that journey again to get equality and get recognition and get sponsorship deals to try and get towards equal pay, which is what women want in women's sports. Oh great, let's just forget all the suffering women have gone through in history to get women's rights and stuff. Let's forget that. Let's just stuff it, like, what nonsense! 20 years of this damage when you can already see the lay of the land. Oh my goodness, can you imagine this, right? Literally. I don't know what this woman's on.
But as the debate continues, the sense is that having tried to find a balance between fairness, safety and inclusion, sports now find themselves under unprecedented pressure to choose which to prioritise in what is one of the biggest issues now confronting them.
Which to prioritise? All my nieces and nephews in the chat, please let me know. Do you prioritise protecting the majority or doing something for a minority that hurts the majority? Or would you like Uncle Jason's option? We have, as I'm going to say again, I'm going to keep going on about this. We have men's athletes, we have women's athletes, and we have our transatlantic athletes. And then everyone can be happy. Wouldn't that not be better? There you are. But I bet you now, trans athletes won't want that, you see, because they know they're not going to be able to break records. They won't be able to win anything anymore. Oh, why? If it's all about your being trans, so they say, then having your own category, your own trans athletes, and your own trans Olympics, or your own sponsorship deals for it, would be much better if you were genuinely concerned about trans rights than anything else that's being done at the moment. So in that theory, unless you're in it to get medals and win things you wouldn't be winning as a man, well, as you were a man, or whatever you want to, however you want to dress it up, you're going to dress your point up in mink and mule. And when Jason says dress up mink and mule, I mean dress the point up in mink and mule. Just for any garden reading, champagne sipping people misconstrue what I'm saying, like. But the point is, it's not a hard thing to do. We already have men's athletes and women athletes, and we also have the Paralympics as well that happens after the main Olympics. There is no reason why we couldn't either put an extra category in the Olympics to have men's, women's and trans. Yeah, or we could have men's and women's athletes compete at, like I do now, and then you have the trans Olympics and the Paralympics as well as 3 separate things. There's ways to do this. It's not complicated. If the issue is the issue they say it is, not what it is, then Uncle Jason's idea is basically like Einstein. And absolutely wonderful, groundbreaking, and there should be no debate. But I guarantee you now, there will be, man. Wow. Let's have a look here. So, for my nieces and nephews who are not inside the United Kingdom, you may not know what these pictures are. So these are basically the women they will call the suffragettes. And the suffragettes are women that basically fought for equality. Fought for the equal rights and the Bill of Rights for women. Okay? To the extent where some of these women, one in particular, threw herself under the king's horse and died from her injuries to get women's rights. And then we have these trans athletes taking away women's rights. All my nieces and nephews. Now, this is the swimming thing I was talking about in the video. So, as you just heard, people are rising up, and people are literally booed the trans athlete for winning. Now, surely, as an athlete, you would not want to be booed, and you would not want that. Having your own trans athlete category would solve all the problems, and then you will be celebrated, not booed. Okay? I think the world needs to listen to Uncle Jason, and Uncle Jason is the more in the world. So on that note, all my nieces and nephews, I'm going to bid you farewell. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps Uncle Jason, and I will see you in the next one.